Alright, today we're going to be learning about some different tools that we'll use in geometry. So we'll keep it pretty basic today. So we're going to be covering what a point is, which everyone should have a rough idea of, the different kinds of lines we can have, and what a plane is. So just to jump into it, a point indicates a location and has no size. So when you want to locate something and show where something is, you just put a point there and you can name it by a capital letter. So whenever you see a point with a capital letter, you know that that is an exact point. A line is just a representation of 2 points that are connected. Okay, and the specifics of a line is that it's going to go on forever in both directions. So if you notice, changing my color here, each point, both of them are connected, and there is an arrow on either side. That tells me that it's a line because it's going to go on forever. Okay. The next thing is a plane. So a plane is kind of like a 2D surface. It is represented by a flat surface that extends without end and has no thickness. So it's usually just represented by a box or so. A lot of times a parallelogram looks like an angled box, which is right there. And it can have as many points as you want, but it has to have at least 3 points in it to be a plane. Okay, and it contains infinite lines in it. It says you can name a plane by a capital letter, such as a plane P, or by at least 3 points in the plane that do not all lie on the same line, such as plane ABC. Just to go back to talk about how you name a line, to name a line, all you do is you just take 2 of the points on the line. So it has to have at least 2 points, but it can have more points on it. But you write the 2 letters of the points, so AB, because those are the 2 letters that connect that line, and then you have to put the line above it with arrows on either side to show that it is an actual line. Another way that you can label it is, if you notice there is an L right at the top, you can call it line L because that's the name of the line. So we have our point, which is named by the capital letter, a line, which is named by 2 of the letters with the line above it, or you can use the name of the line. And then for the plane, you're always going to write plane in the front and then just use 3 of the points inside. So if you notice here, P is not an actual point because it doesn't have a point below it like A, B, and C do. It's just the name plane P. So you can name it either plane ABC or plane P. Either one of those would work, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at number 1 here. It says points that lie on the same line are collinear points. So that's just a little statement there. Points and lines that lie in the same plane are coplanar. All the points of a line are coplanar. So moving on to number 1. It says, what are 2 other ways to name line QT? So let's go ahead and put our line above that. Okay, my computer won't do that, so we're going to put the line above it ourselves. It says, what are 2 other ways to name plane P as B, and what are the names of 3 collinear points and 4 collinear points? So, number 1A, what are 2 other ways to name line QT? So the first one we want to look at is there a name of the entire line? So you know that it's the name of the line because 1, it's a lowercase letter, kind of like the L was. Up above, it's a lowercase l. So if there's a lowercase letter on line QT, which if you guys see, it is right here. There's my line. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. I'm going to erase that just to make it a little bit more clear. We are looking for that lowercase letter, and you can tell that is the M right there. There's my marker. So there is my M. So we're going to name it as my first name is line M. Okay, so that's the first name. And another way is it's either the name of the line with the lowercase letter or 2 capital letters that have points with the line above it. So we've already used QT. See, the only other option is to use the N. It's the point down at the bottom of the line. So you can also name it line NT, but you gotta put that line above it. Notice I have arrows on both sides. B, what are two other ways to name plane P? So if you look above, you just gotta look at the description. It says you can name a plane with the letter of the plane, and it's already been used. That's the P right there. You see how it has no point next to it. Everything else there has a point. So we're going to have to use the other description. So using 3 points in the plane. So if you notice, there's 4 letters that are actually inside the plane. N and T we won't use because they're right outside of it. So the first way, always in a plane, we always write the word plane, because there's not a symbol to use that you put above like in a line. So 3 letters. So 3 letters in that plane. There's 4 letters total: R, Q, V, and S. And you can use the combination of any of them. So the first one, let's just use plane R, Q, V. And then again, plane, all you got to use is use 3 different letters. So we can just use, let's say, QSV. QSV. And we've done it. So 2 other ways to name that plane, which we've done right there. What are the names of 3 collinear points? Collinear means they lie on the same line. So in order to figure this one out, we need to find a line that has 3 points on it. So the 2 lines you have are lines TN or TQ that we already talked about, and then lines RQS. So let's use our line that we see 3 points that are all inside of the plane. So we're going to put points R, Q, and S. Okay. Now we're going to just ignore the 4 collinear points because there is not a line with 4 points on it. So we're just going to go ahead and use our 3 collinear points for C. All right. Moving on. It says below, take note, there's different kinds of lines that we can use. So the first one is a line segment. A line segment is very similar to the lines we were talking about above, except for now we do not have lines on either side. So if you notice in the line above, in our term descriptions, there was an arrow on either side, kind of like that. Okay, but in this line segment, we don't have any arrows. It ends at the point, so it's only a segment of the line. So to represent that, it's the same way as a regular line, except for now we don't put arrows. We just put the segment above, so it can either be AB or BA, and that is a line segment because there's no arrows on either side. A ray is similar to a line, except for now it's kind of like a combination of a segment and a regular line, because it's going to start at a point, but in the other direction it's going to go on forever. So we label that as lines, or the ray AB. Now with segments and lines, you can write them backwards and forwards. So notice line segment AB is the same thing as line segment BA, but in array you can't do that because it only starts at a point on one side, the other direction goes on forever. So I can't say segment BA because it doesn't go on forever in the direction of A. So this one only can be ray AB. It cannot be ray BA. Okay. Opposite rays, I think we're missing a piece here, but opposite rays are 2 rays that share the same endpoint and form a line. So you have to have 3 points to have opposite rays. So there's going to be a point in the middle that goes on forever in both directions. So there's ray CA here. Okay, and the reason that is because it starts at C and it goes on forever in the direction of A. There's also ray CB because it starts at C. Let's use a different color here. It starts at C and it goes on forever in the direction of B. So I can't use ray BC or ray AC, but I can use the opposite rays that start at the same point and go on forever in opposite directions. Okay. Okay. So what we're going to be doing here is naming segments and rays. So for 2A, what are the names of the segments in the figure? So we need to name each line segment. So those are the ones that do not go on forever. So we have DE, and remember, if it's a segment, we don't have any arrows. We have segment EF and segment DF, and then we look to see, are there any others? There's no new ones, but we know that we can name them backwards as well. So let's go ahead and do that. DE is the same thing as ED. EF is the same thing as FE. And then DF is the same thing as FD. Okay, and then that's going to be all our rays, our segments. And then the next thing we're going to do is look at the rays. So for our rays, we have ray DE, and DE is the same exact ray as DF, because if it's going on in one direction, it doesn't matter which endpoint if you start at D and go on, it's going to go on forever towards E and towards F, so those would be the same thing. The next one that we have is we can use ED because that's going in an opposite direction. So that's a different ray than DE. And another one we can use is FD. And then again, that's the same thing as FE because it's starting at that one point and going on forever in the opposite direction. Okay. And then C finally says which of the rays are opposite rays in part B. So our opposite rays, they have to start at one point and go in opposite directions forever. So we have to use the middle point. So which point is that? That would be point E. So the two opposite rays are ED and EF. Notice how they're going in opposite directions but using the same start point. Okay. So for now, we are going to stop there. So we're not going to talk about the bottom part of these notes. We're going to end there with our points, lines, and rays. So make sure you use these on your practice, your notes on your practice, so that you can be successful and fill out your assignment. Okay.